My name is Raymond, and if someone had told me 15 years ago that the boy I cherished above all else would one day reject me, only to return when he learned of my wealth, I would have dismissed it as a cruel jest. But life has a way of dismantling your heart piece by piece, through betrayals that stack silently until you realize love, devotion, and sacrifice mean little to those who only see value in what they once cast aside. This is the tale of how I became a father, lost it all, and found solace amid the wreckage of what was once my family. 15 years ago, I was 30, married to Grace, a woman I thought was my soulmate. We met in college. She was the vibrant, driven one with a smile that lit up every space, and I was the steady one, craving a simple, grounded life. After 5 years of marriage, Grace announced she was pregnant. I remember collapsing to my knees, tears streaming, whispering gratitude to the universe. Fatherhood was my greatest dream. When our son Lucas was born, time stood still. His tiny hand gripping my finger sealed a promise. I'd protect him, guide him, and love him beyond measure. For years, I did just that. I was there for every moment, his first step, first word, first school day. Working as an IT specialist at a growing firm, I poured every spare cent into building a cozy home for us. Grace worked part-time as an event coordinator, but as Lucas grew, her late nights became more frequent. I brushed it off at first. She thrived in social settings, and I wanted her to have freedom. But over time, I noticed fractures in our bond, guarded phones, the scent of unfamiliar cologne, her once warm laughter turning cold and distant. I told myself not to overthink it. We had Lucas. We had a family. Everything unraveled when Lucas was 7. One evening, I came home early and saw a message flash on Grace's phone. Still thinking about last night. You were radiant in blue. It was from a contact labeled G. My world crumbled in slow motion. I didn't confront her immediately. For a week, I quietly collected proof, receipts, texts, photos. The truth emerged. Grace had been involved with Harold, a client, for nearly 2 years. When I confronted her, she didn't cry or deny it. She just said, "Ray, it wasn't planned. You were always working. I felt so alone." That word, alone, cut deeper than her infidelity. I'd worked tirelessly for her and Lucas, and somehow that left her lonely. We separated, but I visited Lucas daily. He was my lifeline, untouched by the mess. Then, during a counseling session, Grace dropped a bombshell she'd buried even from herself. Her affair began before her pregnancy. There was a chance Lucas wasn't mine. The revelation numbed me. I barely processed the session. Grace pleaded not to pursue a test, insisting Lucas was mine in every way that counted. But I needed the truth. I ordered a private DNA test. When the results arrived, the paper felt like it weighed a ton. One line burned into me. Probability of paternity, 0%. Lucas wasn't my biological son. I stared at the results until my tears smudged the ink. Every memory, every smile, story, and proud moment was built on a lie. Grace broke down when I told her I knew, but I was beyond anger, just hollow. We divorced soon after. Lucas was 8 when it was finalized. The court ruled I owed no child support since I wasn't his father, but I refused to abandon him. Biology didn't matter. He was my son. I supported him financially and emotionally, attending his school events, spending weekends together, teaching him compassion and resilience. Grace began dating Harold openly, and he became a fixture in Lucas's life. I tried to share fatherhood, even if it stung. When Lucas was 10, Harold moved in and things shifted. My once affectionate boy grew distant. Hugs became brief, conversations curt. By 13, he stopped calling me Dad, switching to Ray. One night, he said words that shattered me. "Harold's my real dad anyway. Why do you even bother?" Grace had told him the truth, but instead of shielding me, she portrayed me as a clingy man who couldn't move on. I sat in my car that night, clutching the steering wheel, trembling. I vowed to keep loving him because that's what fathers do. But love can't thrive where resentment festers. By 15, Lucas barely acknowledged me. He took Harold's last name and cut off contact entirely. Grace and Harold married, erasing me from their world. I buried myself in work, climbing the ranks and eventually founding my own cybersecurity company. It took relentless effort and countless setbacks, but by 45, I'd built something extraordinary, something that gave me purpose. I never remarried. Trust was a concept I'd forgotten. Then, out of the blue, a message arrived. "Hey, Ray, it's Lucas. Can we meet?" I stared at it for an hour. After years of silence, after he'd discarded me, he wanted to talk. We met at a cafe. At 23, he was polished, dressed in designer clothes that screamed ambition. He smiled awkwardly and said, "You look good. Heard your company's killing it." There it was. He soon admitted things weren't great. Harold had left Grace, money was tight and he was struggling. He spoke of reconnecting, a fresh start, but I saw it. He wasn't seeking forgiveness, but opportunity. For the first time, I saw not the boy I raised, but a man shaped by deceit and choices I didn't make. I listened, then said, "Lucas, I loved you like my own. I gave you everything when I had little to give. When you learned the truth, you walked away without a glance. That was your choice, and I honored it." He looked down, guilt flickering briefly. "I was a kid," he mumbled. "Maybe," I replied softly. "But now you're an adult, and I've learned love isn't a tool people can wield when it suits them." I left cash for the bill and said, "I'll always wish you well, son, but you don't get to return just because I'm someone worth knowing now." I walked away before he could answer. I still think of him, the boy who wasn't mine but held my heart. While I'll never reclaim those lost years or the innocence I once had, I gained something greater. Fatherhood isn't about blood, but loyalty. And loyalty means nothing to those who only return when the world applauds you. 2 years after that cafe meeting, Grace re-entered my life with a voicemail. Her voice trembled. "Ray, it's me. I know you don't want to hear from me, but it's about Lucas. It's urgent." I hesitated, the words stirring old pain. She hadn't contacted me in nearly a decade. When I called back, she answered instantly, her voice fragile. "Ray, Harold's gone. He left 2 years ago, moved away. Lucas is struggling. He barely talks to me, but he needs help." Silence hung heavy. "Why tell me?" I asked. She sighed. "Because you were the only constant in his life, the father he needed even if he didn't see it." I laughed bitterly. "You think I'm punishing him?" She went quiet. In that pause, I pictured her face, the one I once loved, the one that made promises we both broke. "I'll think about it," I said and hung up. I didn't reach out to Lucas then. Months later, he texted, "Mom said she called you. I know I don't deserve it, but I need to talk." Against my instincts, I agreed to meet at the same cafe. It felt like stepping into an unresolved chapter. He stood awkwardly, looking older, worn. The spark he'd once had was gone, replaced by fragility. "Thanks for coming," he said softly. I nodded, sitting across from him. We sat in silence until he spoke. "I screwed up, Ray. I see that now. I said things I can't undo." His voice broke. "When Harold left, I thought it wouldn't hurt, but he didn't even say goodbye. And Mom's struggling. I thought I was too old to feel abandoned, but it hit hard." I studied him, torn between pity and doubt. He looked up and said, "You were the only one who stayed, and I threw that away." Those words struck deep. I wanted to rage, to recount the nights I sat alone, the birthdays I missed. But I was just tired. "I don't hate you, Lucas," I said. "I never did. I just stopped chasing those who didn't want me." He nodded, eyes down. We talked for hours, his struggles, regrets, dreams. He wanted to study, maybe start a business. He wasn't asking for money outright, but I sensed the careful pauses where pride clashed with need. As we parted, he asked, "Can we start over?" I paused. "Starting over means honesty, Lucas. It means you don't vanish when life improves." He nodded, promising he wouldn't. For a while, things were hopeful. We met weekly, shared dinners, talked like when he was young. It was tentative but genuine. I helped him enroll in a tech program and gave him a small role at my firm, administrative, a test for us both. Months passed, and I dared to believe people could change. Then my manager called. "Ray, your son's pitching a crypto scheme to clients using the company's name for credibility." My heart sank. I confronted Lucas that evening. He looked trapped but defiant. "It's not what you think. I was just trying to make money. You don't know how hard it is living in your shadow." I replied, "Lucas, you used my company's name. You lied. That's not ambition, it's deception." He snapped, "You think you're perfect, that everyone owes you because you were the good guy. You're just bitter because Mom picked someone else." That old wound tore open. I stood silent, then said, "I didn't lose your mother, Lucas. I lost faith in those who mistake kindness for weakness." He stormed out. That was our last conversation. He quit the next day, leaving a text. "I can't be who you want." Maybe he was right. Maybe we couldn't be what each other needed. A year later, Grace sent a letter, her handwriting shaky with emotion. "Ray, I'm sick. It's serious. I'm not asking for help, just forgiveness. I destroyed the best thing I had, you. I raised a son who carries my mistakes. If you see him, remind him you were his true father. He knows it, even if he won't say it. I'm sorry, Grace." I felt a mix of sorrow, anger, and relief. I never saw her again. She passed months later. Lucas sent flowers to her funeral but didn't attend. It felt like the perfect end to our fractured story, a family broken by deceit, briefly reunited by regret, and undone by pride. I hear Lucas is doing all right now, working at a marketing firm, living independently. We don't speak, but I don't resent him. He taught me something success never could. Peace isn't about reclaiming what's lost. It's about releasing what was never truly yours. When asked if I have children, I pause, then say softly, I once did. Because for 8 beautiful, painful years, I was a father, and no test can erase that.